I can't see you, John, with the flag.
How about right now? You gotta wait. Nope. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation.
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Everybody's here?
I'm here.
Yes?
Yes.
Yep.
We're here.
Okay. Presentation MS4.
Yep. So we have done our duty and posted our MS4 report online, which is what's required. It's available there for comments if anybody has any. It has to be submitted by the 15th of May. No super big changes from last year. Just reporting on what we've been doing and continuing to do to keep up with stormwater management in the village.
Okay, does any trustee have a question for John about the MS4?
I do.
Go ahead.
John, I noticed public hearing was on May 4th. Was that a typographical error?
Which page?
Hold on one second. I highlighted it and I can't find it. Page, the MSCM2, page 5 of 6.
Yes, hold on a second. Yep. Yes, typo.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So what is
What's
the correct date?
Today. May
Okay.
5th.
So you want a motion to open a public hearing or set a public hearing?
Neither. It's just presented to the public.
Okay.
It's available for the public to view on our website every year. It'll be available at the DEC as well, just so if anybody's interested.
Okay, so we really don't have to do anything with that now?
Not with this one, no.
Okay. Then we're going to move on to approval of minutes, April 21st, 2020. Anybody have a motion?
A motion.
second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Motion carried. Okay, business of the Board of Trustees, CDBG set public hearing. That would be for the next meeting.
Yes,
And that date?
May 19th.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to set the public hearing, May 19th, 6:30, or as close as can be thereafter?
Motion.
Make the motion. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstaining? Motion passed. Adoption 2021 village budget. John?
Yep. So you all should have had a copy, and it's posted as well, the final form preliminary budget with the numbers discussed last meeting, including the contribution of some fund balance to the different funds and the amounts that were described last time as well. No change to that. We're under the tax cap. The tax cap was 2.09%, and we're on just under that. So.
Okay, does someone want to make a motion to adopt the 2021 budget?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Anyone have any questions or comments?
Dan, you're on mute.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
So we got a bunch. I got a bunch of questions from the public this week, and I was just hoping that John could speak to some of them. I know that a lot of us have had conversations and are comfortable with it, but John, can you speak as much as possible about the sales tax number?
Yes. So we have taken some steps this final quarter and the next quarter to make sure we're not overestimating on sales tax revenue due to the shutdown. Some information that was coming back was a little bit surprising in that our check that we just received was an actual increase of 3.8% as opposed to a decrease that we were expecting. They attributed most of that to the fact that it was a slow time, and it is a slow time now for most of the outlets and retailers. So to have them shut down is not a big of impact as it could have been. We had taken the step to reduce both of our expectations for this quarter and the following quarter by about 50%, just to make sure we weren't going to go in the red. So we still have that in there, that ability, but our fund balance projections for this year are going to be a little bit higher because we had budgeted and expected it to be less, and now we actually got even more than we were supposed to. The final projection won't be out until May 8th for the next quarter, which is obviously after today, and we really don't have time to get the tax bills out without doing this today. The one fortunate thing is that the state report that came out, they paid for a huge study to be done by some firm out of Boston, and their projections was on the conservative side to be between 15 and 20% less revenue from sales tax. Since we
That was their conservative projection?
Yes, since we did a 50% reduction, we're ahead of the curve. So as long as things stay status quo, we'll be ahead of the game. Hopefully it won't become unnecessary, but at least we have the ability to have that room in case other revenues are slightly off. We'll have a little bit of room there.
And am I correct in saying that the increase that we got from that first quarter would cover about 6 months of the 15 to 20% range, so somewhere close to that?
Correct. 2 quarters worth, yeah.
I had a question about an MTA tax as well. I know you answered me, and I was happy with the answer. I just wanted on record.
I didn't answer in a nice way.
Sorry, Kelly.
Towards you.
Kelly answered me on that one.
I didn't answer a nice way towards you, but just to let you know, as I felt always, MTA tax is unreasonable in our county because we get limited service for only a third of the vote. It's unfortunate, but it's the product of payroll, as was explained, obviously, but it's not going to change. It's just based on the payroll right now. So.
Yeah, I was under the false assumption that it was based on sales tax, not on payroll, and I thank you for the clarification. Now, I know that we asked all of our department heads to try to find as many cuts as they could. I know that we got some at the last meeting. Were there any more since then?
We got some from each department. There was some that aren't really feasible because it doesn't make sense. One was, the building department has suggested they could do without the code enforcement officer a little longer if it was required, but that really becomes a product of things becoming more dilapidated because it's just too much work for one person to do to keep up with the whole village property maintenance and otherwise. And on the other side of the coin is there's revenue generated from that by doing those inspections and doing those reports. So it really is not a win for us to do that. But it was, they all come up with options, different things here and there. And we did do some of those reductions, and that's where we got to where we are. There wasn't any
other things.
Last meeting. Just your question, sorry.
I don't mean to be monopolizing. I know that the thing needs to be voted on tonight, but I'm really hoping that we can, as this year goes on, take a good look at overtime and see if we can try to get that down, because that's a very large budget line for us, and I think that a lot of it can be remedied with a little bit of planning and maybe some changes in the way we do things. But I know that can't be fixed tonight before we vote, so I just wanted to put it on record.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Where are you talking the overtime, Dan?
Police.
DPW
Overtime.
or police?
Police.
Yeah.
Police? Yeah.
Yeah, that was we had discussed.
That's tough. That's a tough one.
Yep.
It is, because they do great work. And, you know, a lot of it is when someone's out, someone has to cover for them, and they may have just been coming off a shift, and that's who can cover. So I understand that happens. Some of it seems like it happens a lot more often, and if it is going to happen more often, maybe we could plan better for it. Is really what I'm saying. I don't think anyone is necessarily abusing it, but I think we can try to work through, if something's happening all the time, try to figure out a solution to it.
I just want to note for the board's education, there are comments that come up, and they're coming up now on Facebook as well. And we'll address those as you see fit. After you read those, just let me know how you want me to address them.
I can't see them. I guess
Right,
it's my system.
Well, if we can wait till after the meeting, I can address them then as well. And have
Okay.
something on the record for next meeting if you want to.
Hey, John,
Okay.
Yes.
is that report for the sales tax report, is that online somewhere? Can we,
Yeah.
They
Are we
have to
gonna,
wait for all the different companies
Yeah.
to file their sales tax. And
the one that the state gave out, the one that you have?
oh,
They
the
just want
one,
to see that one, yeah. We can make that
It's
available.
probably on the comptroller's.
It's from the
thing, or
comptroller's
I'll
office.
email it.
Yeah. We'll have it posted and send it out to everyone. Post it
All right.
before. Please,
thank you.
put it on the website.
Anyone else? The only thing I wanted to contribute to that is if you look at where our fund balance is, I think that's a credit that has to be given to the manager and the department heads, despite some areas where we have an issue. To the fiscal responsibility that we do have for our village, the fact that we do have that fund balance should say to the residents and to the Board of Trustees and everyone that works for the village that we are being fiscally responsible. We save wherever we can save. Just because we have an amount in a line item doesn't mean it's going to get spent. And as I've said many times before, our budget is flexible. It's always changing. That's why we do budget transfers from time to time. But I think we have to give credit where credit is due. And the fact that we have a cushion, a fund balance that we can utilize for the good of the village is really testimony to the fact that we try to run as efficiently and make the best decisions that we can to keep this village fiscally sound.
I would like to agree with you on that, Sue. You never know. There's instances that things can happen real quickly that cost a lot of money. And so we have the fund balance to cover things of that nature in case there is a small little catastrophe within our village that has to be addressed and addressed quite rapidly. Along with the other funds, they have a fund balance too, which will protect them on if they have incidents that happen. Now, I agree with you. The manager and the department heads have done a wonderful job.
Anyone else?
The
Okay.
flip side of that is if we have a fund balance always, and we're always increasing it, it means it can mean that we could possibly not increase our taxes because we are already taking in more money than we need. I agree with you that I think that we are trying to do our best and doing pretty well in a lot of areas. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't look for others to trim where we can.
And I agree with you, and I've been doing this long enough to know that that does happen. We're always looking for ways to save. But I've also been here when we've had some things come up that we just didn't anticipate, and thank God we had the wherewithal to take care of them, because that's our job. But also in the same vein, there are people that can look at fund balance and say that, you know, we shouldn't raise taxes, or you should use the fund balance to balance your budget. Others would say that's really folly to do it that way, because you really need to have something set aside in case something happens that you need to pay for within a budget. But I can remember not too long ago, we were criticized because we didn't have a healthy fund balance, but at the same time, you shouldn't carry too large a fund balance. So it's a balancing act, but I think that the manager and the department heads recognize this. Our budgets have been really tight the past few years. And I think the fact that we have any fund balance at the end of a fiscal year is a credit to the manager and the department heads, and how efficiently they utilize tax dollars, and they're always looking for a way to save.
Yeah, and I mean, just 2 years ago, we were on the fiscally stressed list, I believe, because we didn't have a high enough fund balance, and we have worked through that over the last 2 years. And what I would hate to see is that we spend the fund balance now and things get thinking that this is the rainy day that we've been saving for, and then things get significantly worse, you know?
Well, but as I said before, once you adopt a budget, you can't spend any more than is in that budget.
Right.
So if you happen to miscalculate, that means that savings, or to make up that difference, has to come within the budget that you adopted. So if something happens to happen, if the sales tax revenue is less than 50%, which I think that's a pretty good number to try to work from, then those savings have to come from within the budget. And that's when the manager is going to have to make some difficult decisions. So he's presenting this budget to us. The Board of Trustees and the mayor are saying, okay, you're the CEO. We're going to adopt a budget that you think is fiscally responsible. And if something happens, then you've got to figure it out. I'm willing to do that and let the manager figure it out if that's what has to happen. Anything else from anyone? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried.
I just, Madam Mayor, just one more thing to talk about before we get off the budget topic. We had presented a few options for capital projects in the A fund. Just want to make sure we have some prioritization there. If we don't get the grant funding we're looking for, the board still wants to go forward with the community center first as a priority.
Yes.
Yes.
Over what?
Okay, well, I'm trying to find my list. Will you prioritize them?
Yes.
Can you just give me, what do you have there? Top three?
Yeah, I don't want to lose our grant funding, so community center and Riverfront Park are probably in the top three. And then Grove Street is our other project that needs to get taken care of soon. It's just in bad shape. Fred really wants to get going on the salt shed soon, and that will be something that we need to look at. Depending on whether we get additional grant funding for the community center, it may be our next project on the list to go on.
Okay. Is everyone in
The-
agreement with that list?
The community center, is that money has already been earmarked, correct?
Partially, yes. We have 300,000, 370,000, 300,000 that's definitely earmarked. We're trying
And
to
if
get
we
it.
don't, and if we don't start it, we lose it?
That's correct. If it doesn't get used within a certain time frame, it goes back to the state coffers.
Well, if we don't get the grant funding back, how do you propose financing the rest of the community center?
On the bond, that's why it's on the bond list for band.
So, okay, well, as much as I would love to have a community center with the other projects that are out there, I don't think that should be at the top of the list. Sorry.
Dave, can you take the meeting for a minute, please?
Yes, ma'am. So, John, so you were saying the community center is at the top of the list because we have half of the money in grants. If we don't start it, we're gonna lose it. But
We
there's
could have up to 670,000 in grants,
correct.
depending on how the state sees it. We had earmarks from Larkin and earmarks from Skoufis. They're just trying to track down the earmark number from Larkin in order to confirm that. And if we do, it'll be a nominal amount to bond. We would have to have a bond in place in order to have the money ferret in and out. But the other projects, the Riverfront Park is the other SAM grant that we have to utilize and to get finished. And we did promise we would take care of that and get that.
So if
come to fruition.
we have the bond in place so that we could take in both pots of money from both Skoufis and Larkin, and one falls through,
Mhm.
and the board at that point decides that it's not a priority,
Yep.
we can still switch that around, correct?
We'd only be able to switch to different projects that are on that bond list. So we're just going to make sure we put those on that
Correct.
list in order to do
So
that.
we can switch the priority level. So I think that that addresses Lynn's concern, and I understand what she was saying, and I think that addresses it. So if these are the 4 items that are on our list and we have to adjust it to take care of other things prior to that, we could do so, correct?
And we're just talking about those 9 on the top of that list, not the other ones. Those are different funds. So the 9 in the top are the ones we're talking about right now.
Okay.
So if you look at those, we can put them into the bond as a notification, so we're covered. And if it comes out that we have additional funding from the grant, we can reprioritize if we need to.
Does that answer your question, Lynn?
Yeah, that's much easier for me to swallow.
Agreed. Thanks for that explanation. Mary, are you back?
Yes, thank you. I needed a drink of water.
Okay. So is that okay with the board to do that, to get the project list at least on there? We'll work on that with bond council in order to get them on the list of potentially funded projects. And if the additional grant funding comes, we can reprioritize and we can work on that at a later date if necessary. Does that sound right, Dave?
I'm fine with that.
Do you need a motion for that?
But I will, yeah. Dave?
You think you need a motion tonight, John? That's just you just
We're
look
gonna
for
need
general
a
sense of the
motion.
board, right?
We need a motion to set the public hearing.
No, we just need a motion to, that I can do that. It's not a resolution, it's just a motion. Just need a vote of the
Okay.
board.
Okay, that's fine.
Forward.
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Motion carried.
I'll get that on the bond council's agenda so we can get that on the next agenda so you can actually look at it in that format that you're used to for the bonds.
Okay,
Thank
where
you.
are we on the, since I was gone, Faith, where are we on the agenda?
We were now just going to C.
Okay. Streetlights, LED, John?
Okay, it seems like a easy discussion, I hope. NICEAG has the LED conversion program now, which we've been talking about for several months. Trustee Thompson's brought it up several times as well. We finally have this opportunity, and it looks like based on our billing structure that it would save us a good bit of money every year over the next at least 5 years. The only thing I really need the board to look at, there's 2 options for the lighting. One is more of a white light, the other is more of a yellow light on the LEDs. They're both going to be a better light. Right now we have 3 different kinds of light in the village. We have the high pressure sodium, we have metal halide, and we have mercury vapor. So we have different types of lights, plus we have different wattages in those lights right now. so it's pretty sporadic. The new light will be a lower lumen, but it'd be a better light. So you're technically supposed to be able to see better and take better picture and video at night, which is one of the things the police were happy with. Just not sure how the board feels about having that whiter looking light LED or the yellower looking LED. I'm not sure. And if you want to have this happen, we can get it going right away. And it looks like we'll save about $25,000 to $26,000 a year.
Well, I've been through the village of Maybrook at night, and the lights, the LED lights that they have on their main drag, 208, I like them. It's nice and bright. You can see a lot. So I would personally go for the white, the bright light, the bright white.
I agree. I agree with the white light.
I agree.
Where are these, the street lights? Are they all the street lights in the village or in a
Yes.
certain section?
The entire village.
Street lights. Well, I gotta tell you, I have one outside this house at night. It was, it was out and we called NYSEG and they came and replaced it. I wish I never had it replaced. It's like being out in the sunshine during the day. I can't stand it. I don't know about the police want the white lights.
Yes, it's better for their video and camera work, so it's safer, it's more natural on the eye.
And actually with the LEDs, it looks like they're about half the lumen, so it should actually be less bright but easier to see.
Correct.
Is there
that would be
upfront
a
cost?
That would be a godsend, I'll tell you, because this light out here is, wow.
John, is
Go ahead, Dan.
Froze, Dan.
Is Dan here?
He was just froze for a second.
John, is there upfront cost for each one of these?
So it'll work into our bill, and due to the savings, it won't be any different cost to us, cost-wise over the year, since it won't start until June anyway. We'll see a savings on our budget line through the year. It'll be
Who will be installing these lights? NYSEG themselves or a contractor?
It'll probably be the contractor. I don't have that
Yeah.
information because I didn't know how the felt about it to go that far.
I would like to explore it.
So yeah,
I'd like to explore it. I mean, obviously if we have a contractor hanging them, are we going to own the lights or are we going to rent them again, just like we do now?
they're NYSEG lights,
Okay.
NYSEG poles. We pay the similar. The bills will look the same, just be less.
And it's a no-brainer.
So,
And I think it's NYSEG's contractor, Dan, not our contractor.
Right. That's right.
Just-
Oh,
Yeah. That's sorry.
So I think
Yes.
that would answer your concern. It's NYSEG
Right.
that would contract to somebody to do that, not us.
That's right.
and then, okay.
John?
So the price per light goes down, but there has to be some increase for the actual light, correct?
Right.
Or is that worked into the price that's on this sheet?
That's worked into the price on the sheets.
Okay. Then yeah, that's a no-brainer.
John, is that actual 26,213, is that an actual amount or a projected?
That's projected based on our actual usage.
Okay, so.
Wattages
what
that
are
we
you-
have. It's very accurate, actually. We compared it to our bills, and it's right on the money.
Okay. Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
okay, do you want a motion for that, John?
Please.
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Just before you vote, just to allow me to negotiate with NYSEG, and then obviously the attorney to review the contract before signing, based on the presumptions that were presented today.
Yeah, that was the motion that was made.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Abstaining? Motion carried. D, banner request, John?
Yep, there was a person that put in a temporary sign request. I don't know if you saw the copy.
Yes.
Okay.
the chief of police has approved it, and according to our law, the next step is for you to approve. The building inspector approved also, sorry.
I make the motion to approve the sign for the residents on
11 Walnut Street.
11 Walnut.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstaining? Motion carried. Liaison positions, Faith?
So as I said at the last meeting, that I would make sure that I got the notes out from the committee meeting that had happened pretty much over a year ago. I did get them out to everybody, just to kind of rehash what the committee had talked about the last time there was a committee about this. The idea behind it is to still keep liaisons, but to transition them from departmental focused to community focused. And that's what the committee has recommended. And that's the idea behind the notes that were set. I did have email correspondence with the two people that are running in the next election to get their opinion just on it prior to me talking to everybody tonight. I did get their opinion on it. And I value what their thoughts were. It just does not change my opinion that I am presenting to everybody else, that we transition our liaisons from departmental focused to being community focused.
Anyone else have any comments? Well, let me just go down the line. Dan?
As far as comments or what I think,
Well, that would probably be also a comment.
I guess. I'm with Faith. I think that, yeah, that needs to be transitioned over into community focus, because I think we can do more there. We're not the boss of the department heads, and with the community, we have a little bit more exposure to them to be able to make better decisions in our community. I think that's the way to go.
Larry?
I feel the same. John's supposed to be in charge of the department heads, not us. And if everyone wants to do community, let's go that route. That's it.
Lynn?
Well, I brought this up with Faith, and I feel very strongly that John is the village manager, and interacting on a daily basis directly with the department heads is his job. I think we have enough different organizations in our community that we can serve the community better by being more tuned in to the needs and the opinions of all the different groups in our community. And I almost feel like, from talking to some of the different people in the different organizations, they feel a disconnect, that we aren't aware of a lot of the great things going on in our community. And they're the people who we represent. So I really feel that we should redefine the role of the liaison and allow our village manager to have the daily interchange with the department heads. That doesn't mean we can't visit the various departments, speak to the department heads on occasion, see how they're doing, if there's anything we can do as a board to help them. I don't think that kind of dialogue needs to stop at all. But I really think we can do much better serving from a community standpoint.
Faith, I guess we know how you feel.
Yeah, I just would like to add that I think to Lynn's comment, that it's also very important that the biweekly reports would still be coming to us prior to a meeting as part of our packets. So we would still have in-depth information as to what's going on into each individual department, and the village manager would then be incorporate those pieces of those reports in his report out of his manager's report. So not only are we getting the in-depth information, but then those key pieces are also getting to the community, because I know that those report outs thoughts have been what were important for getting that information out to the community as well.
John Ramos?
I'm here. Well, everybody knows that I know my place when it comes to the liaison position. I think it's a critical aspect of our job, and knowing the community and knowing some of the workers. I'm not going to take away what John's responsibility is, but you know, each department head should have, you know, a person that they can go to and speak, you know, to some of the issues. I mean, obviously, John can't be 28 hours in a day dealing with each department. And I feel, you know, and pretty much one of the reasons why I was happy to come on the board a couple of years ago was the fact that we would have that direct input, or the camaraderie of the individual sections. At least, you know, Brian knows what the DPW is. You know, Dan knows the treasurer and the inner workings upstairs. And I think it's an invaluable tool that we, you know, communicate to each other. You know, we can text or we can call, you know, if we had a question to the individual, you know, and I think it's the common bond that makes us a board. I'm not taking away from John's responsibility. I'm not the disciplinarian. I'm not the, you know, the person that that fires or hires, but I think we need some continuity of, you know, of the different departments. And, you know, I'm looking at the list that Faith provided us, and it's 31 different organizations. And I mean, right now, as we all sit, you know, and we go to some of these functions, I currently go to 7 of them at least, and provide the people access to a village official. So, you know, if I have 7, we can divvy up the rest of the, you know, throughout the members. And, you know, that comes out to over 42, but we'll still have a hand in everything that goes on around the village and inside the village. I'm not, you know, I'm not too keen on not allowing John to do his job, but we help him. You know, we're a conduit to the village clerk, to the treasurer, you know, to each one of us. So I'm, you know, I'm pretty content with our liaison positions right now. And, you know, and I think it's going to get worse as this time goes by with this coronavirus. And they need, each section needs needs help, you know, and verbalizing some of their needs and responsibilities. That's all I have.
Brian?
With the list that Faith had put out, there's a lot of different organizations within town and the county that would keep the village board and the residents, the ones that do come, informed. Just going over to the town at Sword, between Lynn and I, it's been eye-opening as to the things that are going on. And it can drag you in because there's so much going on within our town that a lot of residents don't know, and a lot of the board members don't know. But sometimes other members that would go to other things that they bring back would be helpful information to us also. I don't want to take away John's job, and I'm not even going to try because it's not in my purview. I do enjoy going down and talking to Fred. And I believe some of the other people do, you know, with their liaison spot. But as far as the list that Lynn and Faith put together, I would maybe venture out in maybe 1 or 2 more spots just to see what's going on within the town and the county.
Is that it, Brian?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. One of the issues when these liaison positions were first formed was that department heads were complaining because they had 7 people, a mayor and 6 trustees, who's stopping down, who wants to talk. So saying that those conversations are going to continue, we may be back in the same boat again because that's what was happening. So that's one reason why Mayor Marr came up with the liaison positions, was to stop the constant barrage of questions and visitations that certain department heads were getting during a certain period of time. If we limited it to 1 trustee, that was supposed to solve that problem, which I think for the most part it has. Looking at the list, and I've been on the board long enough that, you know, you try to go to as many things as you possibly can. And that's quite a list. I've never had a problem talking to people in certain organizations who call me, email me questions, let me know what's going on. But I have to tell you, there is a disconnect because the clerk sometimes has to search for things to put on the calendar because she's not being contacted by people from certain organizations. For what reason, I don't know. So I'm not sure that the organizations in the village are utilizing the clerk or our calendar to the best. I think for the most part, trustees don't interfere with the daily workings of the department. I thought it was nice for department heads to have someone on the board who could advocate for them, certainly during budget or other times. But obviously, I have to go with, you know, what the entire membership of the board says. I think that list is a dream list. As I said, I've been on the board for a long period of time, and sometimes it's an effort to get trustees to show up to certain things that really is their job. There's a lot of things that go on that can be attended that aren't. You see the same trustees at the same things all of the time. So, you know, if you think that this is the answer, then that's what we're going to have to do. But I don't see anything wrong with the liaisons the way they are. I think they've been informative. I think that the board is much more apt to understand the workings of every department. I know for myself, I've been able to explain procedures and projects and things to people in the community that I would never have been able to do had I not been involved in a liaison position to get that explanation from a department head. But that's my view.
May I, Faith, correct me if I'm wrong, but that list does not have to be exactly as it's written. That was a guideline. That was some organizations, some areas where we thought perhaps the trustees could do the most good. It certainly can be condensed. It can be expanded. It can be whatever people would like it to be. And as far as learning the inner workings of the various departments, that's a great concept if people constantly get moved around and get to explore the various departments in the village. And that hasn't been happening for everyone. So, you know, if we're all going to stay with how it is, I think people have to move and they have to build a rapport and camaraderie within the various departments. I know I've been in several different departments. And I have to say, each one, I've learned a tremendous amount that I didn't know going in. And there's still other departments that I would love to explore, but that opportunity hasn't been afforded because everyone doesn't get moved around. I agree with what Brian said. There is so much going on in our community, not just in our village, but in our surrounding community, that we had no idea. We had absolutely no idea. And it was eye-opening to hear what's going on out there. And some of this liaison stuff, you don't even have to be always present. You can make the connections. And now so many people are doing live streams, and there's minutes and agendas, and you can get a real good idea of what's going on and talk to people in different organizations to make that connect. You don't necessarily have to be running ragged going to every single activity that's on that list. Faith, correct me if I'm wrong with that.
Well, that is correct. So, and I think I even said that when I recirculated the list, was that the items that are identified in each one of the sections were not this is what it must be, but the 7 sections were economic growth and development, community services, financial oversight, emergency services, board relations, environmental, and a housing task force. The idea behind all of those things that were listed after them were ideas that could fit into those groups. Obviously, there is no way that a liaison would be expected to do every single one that is listed in all of those ideas. The idea really is to move it from being departmental focused into being more community focused. So that we're focused more on community. The liaison for each one of those different positions could morph that into however they best felt it would work. Housing task force, I'll just use that one as an example. Some of the items that we put onto there were abandoned properties, landlord registry, fire and safety, comprehensive planning, and then one of the people that are running for in the next election had a suggestion to add into there the safety of the buildings as well, you know, when I talked to them about it today. So like there's different ways that each person, depending on what they're assigned to, could incorporate that into there. So no, it is not taking this entire list and doing every single one of those things that were listed there. It's just doing those 7 lists to move it from being departmental focused into being community focused. And really all of the different departments are still outlined in this.
Correct.
So for example, and I'm just going to use this example.
Let me just stop you before you move on. What I just heard about the buildings, what you just went through. Explain to me how a liaison could be involved with that.
And a housing task force?
Yep.
So a liaison could create a housing task force that would be just almost the same as what a liaison does to the building department now currently, that reviews the abandoned property registry, that reports back to the status of that to the board. Same with the landlord registry, assists in the building department with as far as that goes with that. Fire and safety inspections, represents the housing task force on the comprehensive planning committee. And those were just suggestions of a housing task force. Housing task force has been brought up to us in the past by community members. There's a lot of different ways that a housing task force can be created, and a liaison can take the lead to make that happen. As opposed to there being a liaison assigned to the building department that only meets with the building inspector and reports back on building inspector type of stuff. That's what I'm trying to explain, that it's the difference between departmental focused and community focused.
So to clarify,
me, that sounds, let me just finish, Dan. That sounds so invasive. So I just, those are jobs that a building inspector is supposed to do. When we talked about a housing task force, it was basically, this was back when we had the discussion a while ago, that it was almost like a tattletale group that was going to roam the village and turn neighbors in for whatever was in their yard, and if they noticed a violation. That just seems so invasive to me, and you're gonna have people on that committee that may not know part one about safety inspections, about, I mean, I can understand having someone on a comprehensive plan to talk about what they see as safety and fire and safety inspections. I mean, it also sounds like you're gonna have people, you know, going into restaurants and checking for smoke alarms and checking their
respect what you're
doorway.
saying, Sue, I'm not saying a committee or a task force. What I'm just explaining is the idea of transitioning a liaison from being departmental focused into being community focused. It's instead of Lynn, and I'm just going to use this example because she's currently the building department liaison. Lynn focusing only on the building department, to focus more on the community surrounding housing, not creating a force of a community. I understand exactly what you're saying, but that's not at all what I'm talking about. Is Lynn in a group of people to go around and start inspecting people's homes?
Okay, Lynn, hang on a minute. Dan had a comment. Go ahead, Dan, I'm sorry.
I think there are a few board members on this board already that are exemplifying what they're trying to say here. John Ramos, with his work with the school board, I would not know as much about what's happening with the school board unless he brought that back to us. And if we ever have an issue with the school board or need them to do something, John Ramos is the guy to then go in, because he has those relationships, and say, hey, we need this done. How do we get it done? Lynn and the mayor go to those town of Montgomery meetings, and I believe Brian does as well.
Brian Sebring and Lynn.
Yep. And they are our voice there. And I think that's where the goal here is to put our reach farther into the community and kind of almost force relationships, so that when we do need a favor, or the community wants us to do something, there's already open communication to do that. When right now, what I think happens is John Ravella could give us the information that I give you at every single board meeting, because he knows it. He knows it better than me. So for me to be able to come back and say, hey, here's what's going on in Orange County right now. I've talked to so-and-so and so, and we really want the bridge done, and they said that there might be funding here and there, and we're back channeling to try to figure that out. But those relationships are, I think what Faith is trying to point out is that right now we're reiterating information that John Ravella has. But if we do this, we're trying to get our reach a little bit farther into the community, and maybe a little bit farther up government as well when we need things.
Hey, Lynn.
Well, what I was going to say, I think maybe you aren't understanding what Faith's trying to say. And perfect example is with the building department. I started going to those placemaking sessions. And one of the big things that they talk about in that is abandoned properties and zombie housings. And Larry Carassi is on that. And, he knows a lot about the needs of our community. And by doing some outreach in the, housing sector and building inspections and abandoned properties, this is something that, like Dan is trying to say, and Faith is trying to say, it enables us to be more in tune with what's going on in our community, and then having the ability to reach even a little bit further and maybe hook up with a group that is also focused on the same issues in the community, and we can possibly get some really good work done. I don't think it's invasive at all. I think it's part of strategic planning, community outreach, And there's a lot of other municipalities that are having the same pains that we are. And there's a lot more power and a lot more opportunity when you can network and connect to get good work done in your own village, if that makes sense.
So when you say abandoned properties, give me a scenario, what you're going to do about abandoned properties.
Well, one of the things that came up was we can make a listing of all the abandoned properties. There are people in this working group that have the ability, not me, other people have the ability to talk to property owners, present options, negotiate with them. John is our village manager. He's very much aware of some of the problem properties in our community. It would just be a way for more resources to be pooled, more people to do some work, to try and come up with some solutions, some creative, positive solutions to some of the problems we have with housing in our community.
So the building inspector does not have a list of abandoned properties in the village.
Of course he does, but that's about all that my relationship is with him as a liaison, to just, these are the abandoned properties in the village. I mean, I have to tell you, and when I go in and meet with Dean, I'm taking him away from his work for him to explain things to me. And it's information that John already has. So sometimes I feel like I'm just saying the same information that our village manager already knows, that he could give anyone on our board any day of the week. Yes, I have had some other things in the building department that have been very positive with working with Dean and Darlene, but I think we can do more. I really think, I agree with Faith. We need more community service. We need our board to be more engaged with what's going on in our community, with our residents, with our business owners, with our community groups.
I don't think that there's an issue with taking a subject such as abandoned properties and looking to see where information can be gotten. If there's a talk somewhere, if there's a presentation somewhere. But if you're talking about taking a liaison position, making a list of abandoned properties, and then approaching owners or the entity that owns an abandoned property and trying to negotiate and trying to talk, which is what I heard, that's not your job.
I didn't
That's
say,
invasive. Wait, let me finish. That is invasive. If I was a property owner or someone that owned a piece of property and I got a phone call from some liaison from some village or some community member, hey, what can we do? I'd hang the phone up and I'd say, who do you think you are? If you're going to use it as a general thing, what can we do about abandoned properties? That I understand. But for a group of people to make a list and contact property owners, that's invasive. That's what I mean by invasive.
I did not say that that would be my role as an elected official. I would not be doing that. Maybe I'm not really explaining this properly to you. I would invite you to come to the next session with me, so you could actually see the working group and what the goals are and how they try to make the goals happen. Maybe I'm not explaining it properly. John, do you think you can explain it better?
Well, I just want to add, I really appreciate everybody's comments and their perspective on this. I really appreciate all that. And the idea behind it, as I keep saying, is to just move it from being departmental focused into being community focused. And the liaisons that get assigned to the different areas will help morph it into making it community focused in the way it is. Sue, I agree 100%. I'm not about knocking on a door or calling somebody up and saying, hey, this is what you need to do. No. I don't want it to be intrusive. But the liaison can then figure out, focusing on that area, ways that we can better assist the community that we serve. That is what this is all about. Not looking to get intrusive, not looking to micro get into all of these different areas. They were just suggestions on the different areas. That was it. But I agree. I totally appreciate those comments 100%.
I would make a motion to get rid of the liaison positions in the form that they are. I think that we need to spend a little bit of time after this to try to figure out where each board member kind of wants to be on this list. Maybe it's a list of things that committees that we want to be a part of, and someone says, hey, I would really like to be part of that. You know, John Ramos already has the school board connections. But so he would probably want that. So assigning him somewhere else would be, you know, maybe it's a, hey, I would like to do this, as opposed to even an assigning anyone anything. Say, here's a list of things that we want to reach out to. What would you like to do? Pick one or two off the list. But I would make the motion tonight to get rid of the liaisons. With that said, I think that John's report needs to include a report on each department from now on.
Well, Faith, are you willing to share the thoughts of the two people that are actually probably going to be sitting on the board?
So one, I don't want to publicly call them out because I don't think that that's appropriate, because I didn't say that I would share their comments individually, but I can say that one person was completely in favor of transitioning from departmental focused into being community focused, and made 2 additional suggestions into the areas, because as I keep saying, those 7 areas that we said with the items listed after were just suggestions. One person made 2 additions to that, and then the other person was in favor of keeping it very departmental focused, with the caveat of having people switch on a regular basis of the departments. So that's the thoughts of the 2 people that I spoke to. I'm not comfortable with saying which one was which.
No, and I don't need to know that, because when they're on the board, they could make that known.
Correct.
But, you know, unfortunately, we're not in a situation that's normal, because those 2 people would probably be sitting on the board now and be able to voice their opinions and would be able to vote on the final outcome. So, you know, I understand the desire to change this. But personally, I hate to do something and have 2 people that should be sitting here being able to make that decision, and they can't because of the circumstances.
But unfortunately, that election's not going to happen now for another 4 months. So
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that it's appropriate for us to not entertain a motion because of an election that's going to happen in 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
If I can interject here.
Anybody can make a motion, Faith, you know that. I'm just saying, my consideration as the mayor has to be for the board that's going to be here, so hopefully in September. I'm just saying that is my consideration. If you want to go ahead and do whatever you want to do with a board that's sitting here now, that's fine. That's certainly the prerogative that's there.
I mean, a previous board made that decision for the board members that are sitting on here now. That's how boards work, right? So yes, every decision we make, we lock in the next board into a decision. And right now we are sitting on this board.
Their input. You know, hopefully.
I know, and unfortunately, we just adopted a budget that didn't have their input that they're going to have to sit with. I mean, I completely respect and understand what you're saying, Mayor. I get it, and it's unprecedented times that we're in, which is exactly 100% why I reached out to them and asked their opinion. And I personally asked their opinion, as opposed to having it come to the board because they're not elected yet. It's just like such a weird and gray area, and I totally understand what you're saying. But just the same as we had a budget to put together and vote on with people that are sitting here now that are not going to potentially be sitting here in September, and a lot of things can happen between now and September. So I know, I get what you're saying. It's very weird times.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Thank you, Larry.
Hello?
Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say something.
Go
Am
ahead.
I on? Okay.
Yeah.
Forgive me in concluding the, is this a mayoral appointment? I mean, I don't. if
It always
meeting-
has been.
And, okay, so it's basically, your decision, boss, and I understand this totally, and everybody has their points of record, and it's just that, it's up to the boss's decision.
Well, I'll go with whatever the board wants to do. Because that's how I go. I'm one of 7 members on the board. I just feel like I having been there from the beginning of this whole liaison, I understand what the purpose was. Technically, you can't make trustees. Every trustee has to decide what they're going to do with their position. Hopefully in the future, maybe this will stimulate trustees to be more active, not just be, 2 meeting a month people. But you don't know that. So if this is the direction that the board wants to go in, I'll go with it. I hope it works. Don't think that it will work, because what a trustee is supposed to do is represent the community. Shouldn't have to form committees to do that. But as we all know, some trustees are very involved in the community, others are not. And that's a choice they make. And I don't know that making these kinds of committees, forming this kind of task force, whatever it wants to be called, is going to help that matter. They're going to put into the job what they want to put into the job, regardless of what the board decides. So, I'm willing to go along with what the board wants to do, John. I know it was my appointment. It'll be the next mayor's appointment, or it would have been the next mayor's appointment. But if this is what the board wants to do, hope it works, and maybe this kind of format will instill trustees to get involved in the community where they live. And if that's what it takes to do it, then yay, let's try it. So, there's a motion on the floor?
Yep, and we have a second too.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question, and we're going to do a roll call. Dan,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Faith,
Yes.
John Ramos,
No.
Brian Sebring,
Yes.
Mayor Rumbold. No. The motion passes. Okay, payment of audited bills. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Um,
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Motion carried. Correspondence, Dan.
None.
Not even the emails that you got about questions about the budget? Do you count those as correspondence?
In my previous discussions with John, it didn't seem like those needed to be brought up, but I may be
Okay.
wrong.
Well, it was board correspondence, right? They sent it to you as a board member, or was it just as a taxpayer?
I mean, I guess as a board member, I thought the correspondence needed to be of anything that we thought could be a future.
No, just correspondence. Could be a thank you note. Could be anything like that.
So yes, I got a lot of texts and emails about the budget process and questions about sales tax and a bunch of other questions.
Okay, good. Thanks for sharing those.
Yep.
Larry,
No, nothing.
Lynn,
I just had some texts with questions about the budget.
okay. Faith,
I received emails regarding the budget, as well as I received 2 emails from a resident wanting to have conversations surrounding having hens permitted within village limits again.
having what? I couldn't hear you.
Chickens.
Chickens.
Chickens. So I did receive 2 emails from the same person surrounding that.
Okay. John Ramos,
I got 2 emails. The one Faith had sent out to us, and the other from the Association of Towns and Villages about the fiscal survey, if that was received and completed, and that's it.
okay.
Is Mayor? Oh, sorry.
Brian, Sebring?
No. Nothing.
Okay, I got a couple emails about the budget, and a question about, policing. And I answered those, and that was it.
Madam Mayor, you got one at the office, since you haven't been able to come up here. I don't know if you want me to read it.
What is it? Who's it from? Is it personal?
No, I don't know. It says Mayor Sue Rumbold. It's from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
Okay,
It says,
Go
Dear
ahead.
Mayor Rumbold, on behalf of the veterans, patients, and staff at VA Hudson Valley Healthcare System, Castle Point, we would like to extend our appreciation to you for your donation of handmade face masks received on Thursday, April 30th. The items will be distributed to all those in need at our facility. It is your caring and generosity which enable us to care for our veterans in the manner they so richly deserve. Your effort reflects the concern that you feel for our veterans and for the service they provided to all of us while in service to our country. Again, on behalf of the staff and the veterans at VA Hudson Valley Healthcare System, Castle Point campus, we extend our sincere appreciation to you for your donation and for remembering our veterans. We are extremely grateful for your support of our nation's veterans. Sincerely, Yvette Rodriguez Cacho, Chief, Voluntary Services.
thank you. Okay, miscellaneous comments from the Board of Trustees. Dan,
None at this time.
Larry,
I have none.
Lynn,
I would just like to say that I am absolutely thrilled that we are gonna do the streetlights. I've been like bugging and getting information and talking to John for months and months, and I just think it's really exciting that we're gonna finally move ahead with the streetlights.
With that in mind, does that help our community, our climate smart?
Yes.
It will.
Yeah. That's one of the things on the list.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Faith? Faith?
You're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. I just want to let everybody know that the new police car has arrived. And it's getting the things added on that needs to be added on and waiting to find out when the lettering could be done. So sometime this summer, it will be functional. And I also just wanted to ask the manager if there was any consideration about what we were doing surrounding the Memorial Day celebration. Is that going to be canceled? Do you need the board to do that? I'm just kind of curious where we're at with that.
So it was approved by the board pending the reopening of those types of events. As of right now, we don't have any word. Right now, the governor's strict and stern on the May 15th date for anything reopening. So we have to wait until then at least. But we have the 19th meeting just in case if we have to revisit.
Perfect. Thank you. That was it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. John Ramos?
Hi, just, I forgot the correspondence. I know we're away from that, but Gary Swinger from the Fox Hill has invited some of us to the National Day of Prayer on Thursday, May 7th from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Just go on the Fox Hill's website and you'll be able to log on to their system. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Brian?
Yes, I'd just like to let everybody else know that I'm going to be leaving here on the 21st of May, and I will be back in Walden for the rest of the year.
Okay. I guess I just want to let everyone know that after May 16th, I will be known as Mayor Taylor. No longer go under the name of Mayor Rumbold.
Congrats.
Congrats.
Everybody can change my correspondence. I know it'll take some time for everybody to get used to, but anything for the village should say Mayor Taylor on it.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Donovan, do we need executive session?
Yes, we do, to discuss the employment history of a particular employee.
Okay, motion to go into executive session.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Motion carried.
Just for the public's benefit, we'll be recording after exec, but it won't be live on Facebook. Sorry.
Okay,
All right. Faith made the motion.
I
Seconded by
second.
Lynn. Yep. Okay.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Motion carried. Are you
Just-
recording again?
I'm recording, yeah. Just want to make sure the board's aware my contract expires in June of this year, I believe. So just have to put that on the agenda next meeting, Dave, so that you can talk to the board about that.
Okay, anything else?
That's all that I had.
I do just have a quick question. John brought this up in the beginning. Do we need to decide how any questions that were asked on the live stream are going to be answered? Is the manager going to go through and answer them, or compile a list of questions and we'll just respond to them at the next meeting? How are we going to respond to any questions? And I'm talking questions, not comments.
Yeah, if you want to, if you can look through.
Because normally there's just public comment, not public question. So I'm just so that we have a clear understanding of how.
Oh, just, if I can, Faith, the notice for the meeting indicates that public comment will be, and written comments will be accepted for a period of 10 days following the meeting. It's not written questions, it's written comments. So the idea is that this is the typical board meeting. It's not typical because we're all remote, but otherwise the procedures and the process will be the same.
Perfect.
Can-
Thank you.
Can those be sent out via email though, once they're compiled?
If you would, if you guys take a look at the Facebook Live, if you consider any of those questions or comments that need to be addressed, just let me know how you want to address them. That's pretty much, I don't have anything via email or written form that came in as per the notice, just so you're aware.
If anything comes in after tonight, can they just be compiled and emailed after 10 days?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hey, John,
Yes.
the COVID-19 fiscal impact survey, the town is supposed to do, did we have any input with that?
No, not yet.
I mean, it's due the 8th.
I haven't gotten anything from them yet.
All
On
right,
that.
thank you. Okay.
Last thing, since I did get an email from that resident talking about chickens, I don't know very much about it at all, but if there's anybody else that would like to have that conversation and have it put on the agenda, please reach out to me. I don't really know what to do with it, other than I received the email, so I will investigate it.
We had one other person contact the village regarding that as well. Besides the one that contacted you, Faith, just so you're aware. We had this conversation in the board a few
I
years
know
ago.
it had happened in the past, and like I said, I'm not. I have to go and read that conversation. I don't know. So I just don't know if it's a conversation we want to have again. So
Well, you know, you can, well, we've had the conversation, you're right. This is probably the third time we've had it since I've sat on the board.
yeah,
But, you know, you could poll your fellow board members and see if anyone's interested in having the discussion again. I mean, I don't think the arguments for it or against it have changed. You know, in view of the fact that there was just another recent sighting of a bear in the village. It's known that the chickens attract predators. You know, you want to have the discussion, we can have the discussion, but
yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if we want to have the discussion. So I'm just saying, like, hey, I don't. So, but that's a good point. I never thought about that.
Yeah, you could poll your fellow board members, you just get a feel about it, but I'm not in favor of putting it on the agenda again. That situation hasn't changed.
So I'll pull up past conversations and read both sides of it, and even see how I feel about having the conversation, because I don't really know, and you know, until I really listen to both sides.
It's interesting because this is a topic that's springing up in a lot of different communities right now. This is like apparently a big deal thing about having these hens, no roosters, but hens.
It is. When they had the egg shortages for certain amounts of time, people were grasping to try and find eggs. So that's one of the reasons why it came up again.
So I'll pull up all of the past conversations and read through them and determine how I feel about having the conversation, and then I'll reach out to the rest of you and see if anybody else wants to.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
there's gonna be a beef, pork, and chicken shortage, so, you know, if anybody
Cows and
wants to
pigs.
get, you know, beef cattle or, you know, pigs, that'll be the next thing. Okay, that's it. Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. See ya.